Hey guys, welcome to my new movie review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the film How to Be Single. I know this is a week late. I apologize about that. Valentine's weekend got a little bit busier than I thought. But regardless, this still is the month of February, so it is still kind of the Valentine's Day kind of month. So I figured How to Be Single would still be pretty appropriate for this month. So in this film, you guys, this film's about um, single people and how it's really important to both love yourself before loving someone else and to really allow yourself to find out who you really are, what your individuality is, what you personally bring to the world, what you do in your own life to make yourself happy and to pursue skills that you can do on your own when you're not with your significant other or your significant other to be eventually. And so this film kind of plays off of that. It plays off of people who love the idea of love, but they're still single. They don't really know what they want in a relationship yet. Maybe they know bits and pieces about it, but they don't completely know what they want yet. This film also focuses on people who like to party all the time, that just love to have one night stands and really don't focus on love at all. That's a character played by Rebel Wilson in the movie. And then we have a character played by Leslie Mann, who is a doctor who who helps give birth to women who are pregnant. And she views her life as she loves giving life to others, bring happiness into their lives, and to her that brings herself happiness. And so the film plays off of how that kind of life makes her kind of eventually want to be in a relationship again and possibly have children of her own as well. And then we also have a character played by Alison Brie, who is running this dating website, and she's kind of in the same scenario where she really wants to be selective of who she dates, and she's really looking for someone specific because all these other men she's dated really didn't work out for her. Even though New York has tons of people living in it, there's so many married people already and people who don't fit her description too well and don't fit her personality too well. So obviously you can tell this film uses a lot of different scenarios for a lot of different kind of characters about single people and how finding the time is right and how those people found love, and hopefully how you'll find love too if you're still a single person out in the world as well. So overall, guys, I thought How to Be Single was an okay film. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie. There's tons of characters, tons of subplots. Not really a main focus in this film, unfortunately. It's very much we're going to focus on this for a little bit. Now we're going to focus on this character. Now we're going to focus on this one again. And now we're going to focus on that one again. So there's obviously a ton of characters. It's definitely a huge balancing act of a movie. And once again, I apologize about that clock back there. Um, so it does tons of it's just a huge balancing act, and obviously there's times where the film does it okay, and then there's times where the film really can't balance itself out too well. So, for my positives and negatives of How to Be Single, I thought it was an intriguing concept about single people and how, like, once again, it's about finding the right time and the right person and really loving yourself before um, expecting yourself to love someone else as an addition to that. So it's definitely an intriguing concept for a movie. I like how this film was about single people and about um, making sure that they found that the time was right. And life is kind of about that too. It's you really can't expect yourself to marry somebody or be in a long-term relationship with somebody until you absolutely know the time is right and that you're absolutely allowing yourself to be yourself and not changing yourself too much just to fit that other person's needs. So I like how the film once again just really plays off of the concept about single people and how it's both a beautiful thing and how it's something where you can always keep yourself open to that other thing. So just in case a relationship down the road would happen, it can happen still. Also, I think this film has great messages to it. Specifically towards the third act of the film is when the film really gets heavy on messages, but it actually works really well. Like I said, it really just focuses on those messages about single people and expressing how important it is to be an individual and to be yourself and to allow someone to love who you already are and that you're not changing yourself just to fit their needs. So, just great messages throughout the movie. That's one thing I think the film did really well with. The film also has some occasional and unique visual effects. They do this a lot when characters are explaining what they're looking for or There's another scene too with Dakota Johnson where they're talking about how you have kind of have your own limits when you're drinking, and when you have that certain amount of drinks, that's when you know that you're going to be doing something that's not normally yourself, or you're doing something that will make that other person you're with on the date do something completely different. And there's another scene too where Allison Brie is talking about what she's looking for in a man, and she's using a jar of peanuts from the bar to explain to this guy of why it's so important to her to really track down the right guy. So just some occasional unique visual effects where I think this is a first time director. I don't really know this person's name, but it seems like a director that I'm not super familiar with yet. So it's safe to assume that this person's pretty new to the film industry. And but yeah, just unique visual effects, making sure that they are expressing their ideas in a unique way. Because once again, that's just how film directing gets noticed in the film industry these days. It's just making sure that you have your own unique individual voice and that the visual effects match that pretty well if you choose to use them. I think for all the characters that this film focuses on, because once again, there's a ton of characters in this movie. Allison Brie and Leslie Mann, I thought, had the most closure to their characters. They were the most interesting. They kind of had a interesting perspective as to why they've been single for so long. So once again, out of every character in the movie, I thought Allison Brie and Leslie Mann did a really good job with their roles in the movie. They were both really funny too. Both those characters, I thought too, some of their jokes were completely spoiled in the trailer, and I think that's something I liked about them is there was something to see the movie about that wasn't completely spoiled yet because the trailers did kind of spoil some of Rebel Wilson and Dakota Johnson's better scenes, I thought. But it was great to see two characters that we got to see the adventure unfold and some of their better jokes unfold as a result too. So the film also focuses on how breakups are really awful for people. How once we really feel like we're in love with somebody and it just doesn't work out at the snap of a finger. Um, I like how the film just really focuses on how awful that is and how that kind of really hurts somebody and how they're kind of single intentionally because it hurted them for so long. And I've personally experienced this. Breakups are really not fun. And the film really focuses on just how awful breakups are and how sometimes those single people are they're single for a reason. They're not single because of them. They're single because of something awful that happened to them in the past that's making it difficult for them to be in relationships again. And once again, this film focuses on the importance of individuality. It really is important to just be yourself and to be the person that you want to be in a relationship. So if you're not going to be willing to be in a relationship with yourself, more than likely someone else isn't going to be in a relationship with that either. And so the film really expresses that. Once again, it just does a really good job with individuality in the movie. Now for my negatives of How to Be Single, because unfortunately I do have quite a few of them. I thought this was kind of an unworthy Hollywoodized journey to a great message. Like the message was great at the end. That final few minutes that the film explored towards the end of being single um, was a great message. But unfortunately, the journey we had to get to that message was a little unworthy of how great that message was. The film itself wasn't as great as the message. So unfortunately, that unworthy Hollywoodized journey was a little not that great compared to the film's overall message. There's also some very sloppy character development in the movie because this film really doesn't have a focus and doesn't really even have a lead character. It does technically, I guess, like with Dakota Johnson's character, but it's just so sloppy. It's because it's focused on so many people and trying to express something about each and every character for 2 hours. It's just very sloppy. It just doesn't feel right. Certain characters don't get closed the right way. It's just a very sloppy character study and character development that's used for the movie. I also thought there was a lot of times in this film where it's really unrealistic. There's times in the movie where people literally go into a relationship about 2 minutes after they meet them, and I think that's very unrealistic. That's very Hollywoodized. It's a very generic, very sloppy way of making a film about, being able to both love yourself and love someone else. I thought it was a very Hollywoodized way of approaching the movie, and I really didn't like how this film kept doing that. It kept making characters fall in love with each other like 2 minutes after they met, and it felt very sloppy as a result. Certain story elements of the film also feel really generic. The whole two girls going out to party all the time thing really is getting old. This film also has a lot of points where these girls are just having tons of one night stands and they're just not very, they don't really feel like someone we would want to view as a role model. So just certain story elements just felt really generic to me. Really would have preferred something that felt more original because I think the whole thing with, being able to love yourself before loving someone else thing, I thought like if they had a story that focused more so on that individuality aspect, I think they couldn't have fell into the generic trope that a lot of romance comedies fall into, specifically with this movie. So it's really too bad that some story elements felt generic as a result. There's also some flat and repetitive humor throughout the movie. Some jokes really don't work. Some jokes are repeated a lot, and as a result, the joke isn't as funny anymore just because it's repeated 5 or 6 or 7 times throughout the movie. One joke I guess I could tell you just because it just really got on my nerves after a while, just because it's used so much and used in so many scenes in the movie is Rebel Wilson taking this bottle of wine out of her bra a lot. The filmmakers must have thought that was really funny because they do that at like 7 or 8 different times throughout the movie, and after a while it just got really old. So some repetitive humor and some flat humor that kind of wear the film down. Another thing about this movie is I really didn't love these characters. I really didn't, sure I liked Alison Brie and Leslie Mann. They were definitely the two notable performances of the movie and the two notable characters of the movie, but I never really fell in love with anybody. I never really completely loved how every character was treated because the character development was so weak in the movie. I never really fell in love with these characters, and that's really too bad. If you have a huge ensemble like this, we have to find a way to love all the characters. And unfortunately, by the time the film was over with, I just didn't love these characters that much. So overall, I'm going to give How to Be Single a 7 out of 10. I think if you're watching something on cable on a rainy day and you have nothing to do, I think How to Be Single is kind of an okay way to pass the time. I don't even know if I can recommend this for Redbox just because it is so sloppy. It really is very misstructured and not very well organized as a story. So it's an okay film. How to Be Single gets a 7 out of 10. Like I said, it's an okay like rainy day watch, but it's nothing I could really see myself watching again or even recommending to anybody. So 7 out of 10. It's an okay film. See it if you want. Sorry.